my name was Jack Sparrow. Told my mom from early, I'ma take over the world.
What's poppin'? Welcome to Free the Real. Anything and everything controversial and culture. Well, my name is Alec. You guys know who I am. To my left, we have
Baitface Nate. Still week 3 or 4. Still no kids. Still no baby mums. We flying high, baby.
And to my right, we have...
I'm Lisa, I'm 21 and from East London.
Do you think you'll get a better intro by the time we finish this podcast?
I don't think I have to do the most. Sometimes this is more. You said the same thing all 3 weeks.
Having said that, that's a high achievement and accomplishment. Let the record show.
No, it's not. It just shows how low you think of yourself.
18 years of being not having to be tied down for 18 years is low.
That shows what you think about yourself. Oh, Jamaicans dropping kids everywhere. Now, do you have to clarify every week that you still don't have any kids? What's that say about what you think about yourself?
That you still don't got kids.
Short and sweet. Aziza, 21 from East London. Moving on.
And loser of each round has to take a coveted shot. So, topic for today is going to be dating within your race versus dating outside of your race.
We're in the year 2020. I would like to think we have progressed as a society where it's normal for everyone to love who they want to love. So that is not defined by race, that is not defined by where you come from, what social standing you're from. Whoever you love, you love. And it just so happens that, you know, black people love white people love Asians, Asians love black people, and that's how everything should be. You can't just decide one day that I'm going to marry a black person just on the preface that they're black. That doesn't make any sense. You should love someone for the pure basis of you actually loving who they are, what they can offer you as a partnership.
But can we talk about motivations though? If we're being real here, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room and the motivation behind why there's a lot of interracial dating. Now, this might be controversial to say. There might be some societal motivation when it comes to things like seeds that have been planted in our heads from centuries ago, when it comes to things like institutional racism and things like that, divide and conquer, etc. So don't you think that sometimes people's motivations behind choosing their preference or dating outside of their race might be due to something that actually isn't as lovely and rainbow and unicorny as you just described?
Well, before you answer that, real quick, what are your thoughts on the actual portion of just interracial dating? Like, what do you think first?
I mean, as I said, I'm a neutral person. I'm not gonna lie to you, I do think when it comes to the long run, there are more benefits out of dating within your race than there are outside of your race.
Fair enough. Now, that was a very interesting question that you asked. Yeah, the motivations and seeds being planted, systematic racism, all tying together into having, I guess you could say, black men in this situation choosing their preference in which women they go for.
Your reasoning for interracial dating, don't you think that's just like a washed out version of what the reality is?
No, because I feel like it depends on the person. So I can only talk about myself and my experiences. I've brought black girls home, I've brought white girls home, I've brought Indians, Persian, like I've done it all. And my mum doesn't look at anyone any less so than anyone else. Like everyone else is on a level playing field. So, and that's how I've been brought up. I don't look at other races and I go, oh well, because she's white, I can take the piss with this one, or because she's black, I have to carry myself in such a way. Like if I like someone, I like someone, and that's how it should be based on. When people start bringing in ulterior motives and motivations, I think personally that's a cop-out, because that's like me going, oh yeah, you've got with that white guy because you can't handle the truths of being with a black man and police brutality and all the rest of it. Whereas you might come to me and be like, no, I'm with this white guy because I love him, like I love how he appreciates me, I love the fact that he understands my culture, etc., etc.
But don't you agree to a certain, wouldn't you say that to a certain degree there's always going to be things that someone who you don't share the most, let's say, cultural foundation with, it's always going to be hard when it's not just you anymore. Whether that's your family or whether that comes to raising a family, like aren't there certain things that you stand for within yourself that you'd want your kids to have? For example, let's say for me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like seriously date now. I'm gonna like settle down. I'm gonna get married. I know the struggle I faced, right? Let's say as a dark-skinned black woman, and I know the kids that I want to birth, and I know how I want to help them overcome the things that I couldn't overcome and now have, right? But how am I gonna do that if they look different from me?
Well, then, do you feel as if it's one of those things where you have to date within your own race in order to be able to relate to them fully?
I guess it just depends on what you prioritize, really, because I find a lot, when it comes to, let's say, the voices within the black community, right?
Okay.
We're talking about Kendrick Lamar, let's talk about the UK scene with Dave, and everyone's got so much to say about, black lives and this and that, and then you turn around and it's like, but the family you're building for yourself doesn't reflect the people that you're defending, and that's fine, like cool, but really and truly, how can you trust someone who doesn't uphold those values in every aspect of their life?
But do you feel that those values only tie within race? Like basically you won't be able to find core key values that you're looking at with somebody unless they look like you?
I think it's definitely much harder, and I think sometimes you have to take things with a pinch of salt, or your own opinions with a pinch of salt, if you're going to be someone that can compromise on that. Then you have to compromise on the fact that you can't really be the spokesperson for everything.
What do you think, bro?
Everything else. If that makes sense.
I disagree so massively.
Go on. Yeah, go on.
That's like me saying, okay, in this particular time, we're all talking about Black Lives Matter, and we've accepted as a black community that we can't preach Black Lives Matter by ourselves. We need help from white people to understand white privilege, and we need help from mixed race people to understand that you come from this community as well. So we understand as a community that we all need to come together. So how can we come together if now we're talking about segregation and now we're suddenly saying
no one
that,
said segregation.
But you just said that you can't really uphold the struggle if you're not, if in this example you're not a black man with a black woman.
Because it's more complicated than that. The way I see it is like it's not so black and white with like everything.
As again, I can only talk from personal experience. I don't date someone based on their race. I date someone based on the person. Race is for me like irrelevant.
I think it's more beneficial, or it's better to date within your race. Now more than ever, it's better to stick together. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like over the years, there's been so many reasons as to why black people have been divided, whether that's through gang culture or through colorism. But I feel like if you're really about the movement, then that will reflect everywhere. And it's fine to be into whoever you're into, but I just think that love and building a family isn't as out of our control as people make it out to be. You make your own choices, and so if who you decide to look at for certain reasons is anyone other than someone who looks like you, then as I said, I just feel like you're not as credible to speak on certain things as one who, let's say, dates within their race.
You've dated within your race as well, so to justify her point, or to argue her point about being within your race, would you say that the connection that you may have felt within your race was the same thing that you felt outside of your race? Like, would you be able to see yourself doing a long-term thing with somebody in your race and feel as comfortable as outside your race?
I think it's different. So, like, there's obviously certain things I can attribute with being with a black person than someone else. So, like, I make a joke about, I don't know, like, chicken or drip, or like where we come from, like in London. Like me and you, because we're black, we can have that banter because we understand each other. Whereas if I have that conversation with like someone that's white, they're not going to understand where I come from, and I'm going to have to teach them, and they're going to have to learn my ways, etc., etc. But that's what I think the beauty of love is, because the person that I've been in love with previously like wasn't black. And that's okay. Like, they don't have to be black for me to be in love with them. Like, they can just be whoever they are, and that's fine.
So would you say that since you've dated outside of your race, would you say that you've been able to face the same struggles that you're talking about, or would you say that you were able to at least have some type of relation in that relationship?
Like, generally, I am someone who likes to not preach, but educate where I can.
Yeah.
And so I did have that impact on the people that I dated who weren't black. But I'm not going to lie, for me, it was personally, it's not something that I want to have to do for the rest of my life, to have to be constantly educating someone. Because someone that you have to keep educating cannot be fighting the same battle as you. And let's just say with like interracial dating, can't you ever, there's just so many things to like question. For example, genuine reason, again, to motivations, the reason why so someone might have been initially attracted to you. wouldn't you say that there's, you know, an element of fetishization of black men?
You can tell when someone.
No, but are you sure you can tell? Because listen, I know a lot of black guys, right, that will say that, you know, they've dated whoever race, but when I look at the dating history of the girl that they're dating, they all look a certain type of way.
Of course, and
right? They all look like you.
100%
Carbon copy after carbon copy after carbon copy, and then you wonder why. Like,
but as I said, I feel like you can tell by.
No, but
I feel like you can. Like, if you come across like for example, we're not dating. If you come across, say, for example, a white girl, and the only common denominator of all the guys that she's dated is black, and they all could be, you know, one could be good looking, one could be ugly, one could be, or they're all like dark skin, then you know her preference is dark skin black males. There is no quality control there, and you can just tell because you don't really have to dive that deep into the conversation to understand that she just wants a black man.
Not necessarily. Some girls won't be as vocal to be like, oh yeah, I only date black guys. At least not with boys. But when it comes to girls, even the girls you least expect to be vocal about that stuff will be vocal about that stuff with their girls.
I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna hold you. Yeah, that might be a lot of girls will let you know that she's into black men.
But that's just the one type of girl that's into black men. What about the other type of girl who's not as vocal about it because she knows that actually morally to say that it's a bit dodgy?
Her actions will speak louder in that situation. I.e., you'll see who she goes for on a night out.
I just think bottom line is there's a level of understanding that you could achieve with someone who is within your race than that you can't with someone who's outside of your race, right? For example, there's things that we know that are unspoken that we don't have to communicate to each other with that you'd have to with someone who isn't part of your race. For example, that scene in Get Out, stopped by a police officer, white girl gone crazy, and he has to tell her to chill out. Ooh. Right? Now that's a situation where, let's say, if you're in America, it potentially really could have been your life at stake because this girl who didn't understand your background or your history or where you came from or what the struggle is, decided to go ahead and move mad without any consideration for what position she's putting you in. And granted, of course, it's love and it's amazing, all sweet, but bottom line is it just wouldn't get you as much as someone who within your race would.
I feel like if you're seriously engaged with someone, it's as you said before, you will educate someone on your background, what it means to be black, the differences between being white, Asian, black, whatever.
Sorry.
And you personally might say you haven't got time for it, but if you are really invested in someone, you will definitely make time for it.
It's not that I said I don't have time for it, it's just I'm not willing to do that for the rest of my life because there are things about black culture that you can't teach someone within a lifetime. Do you know what I mean? They'd have to have that history be a part of them for them to really understand it. Hence why when I said that certain connections that you have with people within your race are unspoken, so you don't have to speak about it because it's already a part of you. There's only so much that you can teach someone in a certain amount of.
But then that's like, I don't think every black person experiences the same thing anyway. You know, that's why that's
gonna happen.
That's why we have
regardless.
terms like coonery and bounty and chocolate and all this stuff because a lot of black people they forget who they are after a certain while or where they've come from, etc. So
what do you mean forget who they are after where they come from?
There's some black people that don't think that they're black. They think that they're part of the bourgeoisie and that they think that they're better than everyone else. And
no, but why can't what do you mean there's certain black people?
That ties into a different topic actually.
Because that's different. Because you can be black and be part of. Being black doesn't mean you have to be part of the.
No, but you can still be black and not understand some of the terms and conditions that come with being black.
The struggles
you yourself have not come.
We're talking about the reality of the situation in terms of which one's more likely to happen, regardless of whether you're, because we know there's things like classism, etc. But it doesn't take away from the fact that everyone has that history embedded in them when you are from a black background. That doesn't you cannot put someone who, let's say, is black and bourgeoisie on the same level as someone who's white. You can't. Because regardless, their skin is still black. They would have.
Yeah, but I'm not saying.
But that turns into a classist thing.
I'm saying someone that is also black. It's like the typical thing that we hear now is how can you be a black conservative, and that is the same as being someone that's a black labourist. Like you come from two different backgrounds, and you might not identify with anything else other than being black. But your experiences of being a black conservative and my ideology of being a black labourist are two different things. We don't align, but the only similarity is that we're black.
I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that it still doesn't change that someone who doesn't share as many cultural similarities as you will not understand you naturally. And so long as someone has to understand you unnaturally, you can't connect on that level.
Both these arguments sound like something that we should ask other people what they think. So in the comments below, shoot us a message, see what you think. Tell us, who do you side with? Who do you really reconcile with? Do you feel as if class does affect race? Do you feel that race is only subjected to race? Do you feel like you can date within your culture and still feel the same connection that you would date with outside of your culture? Do you feel that you would also have to educate somebody for the rest of your life? Or do you feel that with love, education just naturally comes with it?
Like I said,
Wow.
consciousness
Over coochie.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. Ooh, who do I think won?
Based on what you think as well.
Ooh, based on what I think as well.
Because that's how I had to make my
It's
decision.
true.
I sent you a mix.
Shut up.
You did send me a mix.
Shut up.
But having said that, you didn't send me an album. Therefore, I'm going to have to side with Nathan.
What?
Thank you very much.
No.
Nathan. I'm
You
going to side
did
with Nathan.
not.
And I have a reason why I have to side with Nathan.
2 wins.
did
I have to side with
2
Nathan.
weeks.
Because you didn't side with me. That's one.
I knew it. I knew it. Just because I didn't choose him. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow our socials. Links will be in the description below.